I come from a civilization where women have always been empowered, and that's why you will find that we have a tradition of putting a woman's name before a man's name. That's why you have Sita Ram and Radhe Shyam. So, what's your husband's name? Puneet. So, thank you very much, Poonam Puneet. As I stand here, I know you have to leave, but I want you to tell everybody a startling fact. Genocides begin and they end. In the history of humanity, the Kashmir Genocide is the longest continuous genocide. Today, as I stand here, just few hours ago, a bank manager was identified, targeted, and shot, and he died. 2 days ago, a lady teacher was identified and shot. Few days before that, another Hindu teacher was identified and shot. It's happening every single day. A land which used to be 100% land of great Hindu civilization, today there are no Hindus there. And it's a very sad commentary on humanity, because we have very selectively shown empathy depending on which side of the politics we are on. And which is why we decided to make this movie. For 32 years, nobody dared to make this movie because there was a challenge: if you make this movie, you will be killed. And therefore, all the artists, singers, thinkers, intellectuals, media people, can you believe it? Media people did not report it because everybody was scared to go there. And India is not Israel. So for 32 years, it was happening right in front of our eyes. But the world, especially the narrative builders, the media, the historians, the social scientists, artists, filmmakers, documentary makers, they chose to ignore this as if nothing happened. So an entire generation grew without knowing anything. And who are the victims? Victims are not just Hindus. Victims are also Muslim young generation. Because anybody who is born after 1990, they don't even know that Hindus ever existed in Kashmir. Since I shot over there, so I know about it. This problem is not Hindu versus Muslim. That's what you will find media tries to paint it as. This is humanity versus radicalization. This is humanity versus brainwashing. This is humanity versus terrorism. We have to choose which side we are on. And it doesn't matter what is the religion of the terrorist. Anybody who picks up a gun and kills a small child, rapes a woman, or cuts anybody into 50 pieces, the entire humanity should stand up and they should not just oppose it, but they should also make efforts to defeat it. This entire journey began, I was in Houston, I met a doctor who is a Kashmiri Pandit. He said, Vivekji, why don't you make some documentary on our issue? Oh, I said, marwana hai kya? This has become our natural behavior. If I say, okay, let's go to Kashmir, the first thought in your mind is, oh, what if I die? What if I am killed? So he told me, if you'll also say no, which means we have no hope, which means nobody is going to stand up for us. So when I was flying back to India from US, throughout that 16, 17 hour long flight, it kept hitting my conscience non-stop. And I said, who am I? Am I just a filmmaker? Am I an artist? Am I a Hindu, an Indian? Who am I? And that's when it was a moment of realization, and I realized that I belong to a race called humanity. We are more evolved because we can think, because we can choose between right and wrong, because we can deliver justice. And the next question which came to my mind was, what is justice? This whole world talks about justice, but nobody tells us what is justice, and therefore we have done this research. You go and ask any young kid and ask him what is justice, and the first thing he's going to tell is what court delivers. That is constitutional justice. But as human beings, we can choose to be on the side of the justice, and the first step for that justice is acknowledgement of injustice. Acknowledging that injustice has been done. So, personally, I acknowledged that injustice has been done, and injustice has been done not by terrorists, because they are professional terrorists, that's their job. Injustice has been done by the society by not acknowledging it. And society did not acknowledge because nobody told them, so there was no awareness about it. I didn't know anything about Rwandan genocide before I saw the film Hotel Rwanda. Without Schindler's List, the world wouldn't have known about this Holocaust as much, or pianists and those great movies, and the novels and the books and all those kind of things. But then everybody in this world, right from America to India, even the societies which champion the cause of humanity and human rights, even those NGOs which survive on championing and advocating human rights, everybody refused to support us in this film. Not even one person, trust me when I say it, I mean every word of it. Nobody stood up and said, yes, we are with you. No studio, no production house, even actors backed down. And I'm not blaming anyone. Because it's a conditioning of so many years. You believe that if you do anything and you support the cause of the people who have been denied justice, who can't go back to their homeland. Why do we call it motherland? If you're not allowed to go to your mother, what kind of life are we leading? We deprive them of their basic human rights. And that's when we said, we will do it. It became a purpose of our lives. It became a mission for us. So we started on a journey and we said, okay, let's identify where are the first generation victims. How we defined first generation victims was that the people who were directly affected, means your father was killed, your uncles or your aunts in front of your eyes killed, you were witness to that. Because the second generation and third generation, people who have not experienced it themselves, people who have not been witness to this, they can always exaggerate and tell you stories which they have heard from others. Therefore, we went there. So, if you have seen the film, the hero of the film is based on a real person called Himanshu Ganju. He was 5 years old when his father on his scooter dropped him to his grandmother's house, Nani. And he said, I'll come back tomorrow to pick you up. The father never came. He was pulled by terrorists. He was shot, I don't know how many bullets or hundreds. Stones were tied to his leg and his body was thrown into Jhelum River. Then his mother was gang raped, killed, and nobody saw her body. His mother's name was Prana Ganju, and there were two Prana Ganjus. One was gang raped, killed and thrown into Jhelum, and one was taken to Pakistan after being gang raped by many people. Till the time he was 18 or 19, because his grandmother never told them how their parents died, she lied to them just to cover it up. And she told them that your parents had gone to Thailand and they had a scooter accident and they died there. It was easy for the boy to digest that news. If you have seen the film, the boy doesn't know what happened to his parents and he keeps saying that they died in a scooter accident. Till date, That boy doesn't know what happened to his mother. Was she taken to Pakistan or she was killed and thrown in jail? Imagine. I'm not getting into gory killings and all those things, but this story shook me up. I said, how do you come to terms with your own life if you do not know what happened to your mother? There are two prana ganjus and you live all your life in confusion. What happened to your mother? And how will you resolve it? Wherever we went, there were stories after stories which are unbelievable. Women were cut live on saw machines. You've seen in the film. Her husband was shot in a rice drum and she was forced to eat the same blood-soaked rice of her husband. These are just some of the stories. There are many stories like this. We met somebody in London whose father was cut into pieces and body in a sack was thrown at the police station. But if you believe in humanity, you always look at the positive side. And what we realized, that despite going through so much of pain, not even one Kashmiri Hindu ever retaliated. You will find a lot of hate literature. When people suffer, when injustice is being done, to vent it out, they write lots of hate literature, hate poetry, or genocide poetry, you can call it. Even after Holocaust, a lot of people wrote Holocaust poetry, which is to heal yourself. But not even one Kashmiri Hindu did even that. There is no hate literature, no hate poetry, nothing. What did they do? Kashmir is a land of Saraswati. And Saraswati is a goddess of knowledge and wisdom. Without realizing, see, the entire Hindu philosophy is based only on one thing, that the only purpose of human beings is to move from ignorance to knowledge. Anybody who knows Advaita would know that. That is what Shaivism is all about. The Lord Shiva, that's his philosophy. Move from ignorance to knowledge. And we believe that when there is ignorance, you have terrorists, barbarians, you have dictators, you have all kinds of these people. But when you move towards knowledge, this is very tribal kind of living, which believes what I say is correct, everybody is evil and therefore they deserve to be killed if they don't follow my line. And when you move towards knowledge, what happens? Why knowledge is so important? When you move towards knowledge, you realize that we are all one. And that's why the entire theory of Shaivism is about oneness. And that oneness is humanity. So all these people made sure that every single child of this community is highly educated. You will not find even one Kashmiri Pandit who is not educated. You will never find even one Kashmiri Pandit who says, okay, give me some money or give me donations and I have to survive. Never. I saw it as a story of struggle, survival and success. This is a great example for the entire humanity. We live in a globalized world. This is for everybody. I think anybody who has a heart and who has a mind should pick it up as an example and showcase it to the world of ignorance, that how knowledge makes you a great human being. Today is one of the most successful communities in the world. All educated. Almost all their children are creative. Almost all their children are contributing to the evolution of humanity in the fields of science, art, literature, poetry, and see the difference. The difference is that people who were killed, destroyed, who were thrown out of their own homeland, all their children are highly educated and successful, and they are spreading further knowledge. And the people who destroyed them, who killed them, their children are throwing stones at each other. So the reason, as filmmakers, our film is extremely successful, we have no reason to run day and night and spread this message. Why are we doing it? I'm not asking anyone to see the film. I am saying that please believe in oneness. The great sage, Indian sage, Maharshi Ramanna, if you have heard his name, anybody has heard his name, Maharshi Ramanna. He was also called Bhagwan, not by me, by BBC. So, I mean, when you say BBC, a lot of credibility comes in, I don't know why. So one BBC reporter asked him, this guy never wore any clothes, he had a very small cloth, he wore it here. He said, you don't need anything. So he asked him, how do you treat others? He said, what? There are no others. And the interview, which was supposed to be for an hour, ended in 1 minute. And this is true. The moment you start believing that there is no others, the minute you start believing in the great Hindu principle of oneness, you don't need lectures, you don't need gyan, you don't need conflict, you need nothing. And isn't it what the world preaches? And despite that, we make arms and we go and kill people. This is the reason we want to showcase this film, use this film as an example through our art. If you don't know, there are fatwas on my name. You know what are fatwas? Fatwa is a religious diktat which says, okay, go and kill this person because he doesn't listen to us. But we have put our life, I have chosen to put our lives, our children also got involved. We made sure that our young teenager kids, 19 and 21, they become part of this entire process. So never ever, even in their life, even for a moment, this thought can cross their mind that you can hurt anyone. And we are proud of this fact. We have put our lives at stake just to spread the message of humanity and oneness. In the end, all I would like to say is, make sure when somebody is ignorant, don't be scared, don't run away from that person. Even if that person has guns, share your knowledge with him. Spread your knowledge. Knowledge, according to Indian philosophy, has no copyright. Because we do not share knowledge, and knowledge doesn't mean reading something on social media and sharing it on WhatsApp. By knowledge, I mean the knowledge of your life, the knowledge of your legacy, the knowledge which you have acquired from generations. Like what I'm sharing with you right now is a knowledge I have acquired. It's not that I thought of oneness. And please spread the message of oneness. This film is about humanity. A lot of people say, but you have shown so much of terrorism, you have shown so much of violence. How is this a film about humanity? So in the end, I just want to tell you why it is about humanity. You ask anybody what is humanity, people do not know. It sounds very utopian concept. But when you show them what humanity is not, or what is in humanity, they start believing in humanity. That was the artistic twist, artistic tool we used. That's why we showed you what happens when humanity ceases to exist. So thank you very much. Namaste. Thank you.